Anger is a poison you drink, hoping others die. The man who killed my daughter now sits beside me, helping build a charity in her name. I didn't forgive him because he deserved it. I forgave him because I couldn't afford to die again from the same anger. What would you do if the one who destroyed your world tried to rebuild it with you? Forgive or forever hate? There was once a man named Ethan Rowe, a quiet schoolteacher in a humble countryside town. His days were simple, his heart was gentle, and his soul deeply rooted in compassion. He was the kind of man who smiled at the sunrise, helped his neighbors carry groceries, and taught his daughter Lena that kindness was the most powerful strength. But one night, everything shattered. It was raining heavily when Ethan's wife, Margaret, left the house to buy medicine for their sick daughter. She never came back. She was hit by a speeding car, driven by a drunk man named Thomas Gray. Witnesses said he laughed at the police, called it just bad luck, and showed no remorse. That night, Ethan didn't just lose his wife. He lost his faith in the world. From a man of warmth, he became a shadow, a whisper. He stopped teaching, stopped singing to Lena at night, stopped watering the rose bush Margaret had planted by the window. Every time he saw a car drive by recklessly, a volcano erupted inside him. But what burned him most was that Thomas Gray only served 2 years in prison. 2 years for a life. Ethan kept replaying the courtroom in his mind. Thomas shrugging, Margaret's photo on a cold evidence board, the judge saying, "Due to insufficient evidence of intent, the sentence is reduced." "Reduced?" Ethan whispered in the courtroom. "You reduced her life to 2 years?" From that day forward, Ethan made a vow in silence. He would never forgive. Not the system, not the man, not even himself. And so, Ethan began feeding the fire within him, day by day. He wore it like armor. It gave him purpose. It gave him strength. But that fire wasn't burning Thomas. It was burning him. Years passed. Ethan tried to raise Lena with love, but it was always overshadowed by his bitterness. He taught her about right and wrong, but his version of justice was rigid, sharp, absolute. He told her stories of karma, but not the peaceful kind. "If someone harms you," he said one evening, "you don't turn the other cheek. You don't forget, ever. Because forgetting is weakness." Lena, only 10, looked into her father's eyes. Eyes that once held stars, now only held storm clouds. She nodded, but her heart sank. As Lena grew older, Ethan's pain became her pain. She didn't laugh like the other children. She didn't trust easily. She didn't allow herself to love fully. And Ethan, though he noticed, believed it was better to raise a daughter who was strong and guarded than one who would one day suffer like Margaret did. What he didn't realize was that he was passing on the poison. And then, something happened. One summer afternoon, Lena, now 20, brought someone home. His name was Michael Gray, a gentle soul, respectful, honest. He greeted Ethan politely, even brought flowers for the old rose bush that still stood outside. But when Ethan heard the name Gray, his blood froze. He asked questions, subtle at first, then harsh. And then it came out. Michael was Thomas Gray's son, the very man who killed Margaret. Ethan's rage exploded. He smashed the flowers. He yelled at Michael to get out. He forbade Lena from ever seeing him again. She cried, begged for understanding, said, "He's not his father. He doesn't even speak to him anymore." But Ethan didn't hear her. He only saw a ghost. He saw Margaret's broken body on the pavement. He saw courtroom lights. He saw 2 years of empty justice. "No daughter of mine," he roared, "will be with the spawn of a murderer." Lena left that night, and she never came back. Ethan thought she'd return after cooling off. But days passed, weeks. Then, a call came from a hospital. Lena had collapsed. Diagnosis: severe depression, emotional trauma, nervous exhaustion, years of carrying her father's rage, and then losing the one person who made her feel free. Had broken something inside her? Ethan rushed to the hospital, but it was too late. She was gone. A note was left beside her bed. It read, "Dad, I loved you more than anything, but I couldn't carry your pain anymore. I wish you could have seen Michael like I did. I wish you could have seen me." Ethan collapsed.
That night, for the first time in years, he cried. But this time, it wasn't from anger. It was from a soul that finally saw the cost of holding on. His rage hadn't punished Thomas. It hadn't changed the law. It hadn't protected his daughter. It had only built a prison, brick by brick, and locked everyone he loved inside it. And in that prison, love suffocated. He returned home alone. The house was silent. The rose bush had withered. He stood in front of the mirror, eyes hollow, and whispered, "I drank the poison. I thought it would kill the man who hurt me, but it only killed everything I loved." Ethan Rowe stopped being a father the day Lena died, but he only realized it when her presence no longer filled the house. Grief is a strange creature. It changes shape every morning. One day, it's anger. The next, regret. Then silence. Then anger again. Ethan walked through the halls like a ghost. Lena's laughter echoed in the corners of his mind like a dream that no longer belonged to him. Every object in the house became a reminder. The cracked teacup she used to drink from. The diary she hid under her bed. Its last page filled with ink smeared by tears. One day, Ethan found himself outside the hospital again. Not because he had anyone to visit, but because grief has a way of dragging your feet toward pain, as if to ask, is it still there? It was, and it would be, for a long time. He sat on a bench, staring blankly at the sky when a nurse approached him. She handed him an envelope. "She wanted you to have this," the nurse said. Inside was a pamphlet, Dharma Refuge Center, a meditation retreat on the outskirts of town, a place where people healed, or tried to. Ethan almost tossed it away, but something, maybe desperation, maybe his daughter's final wish, stopped him. A week later, he found himself at the gate of the monastery. It was quiet, too quiet for a man who had made rage his only companion. He was greeted by a monk named Brother Ansel, a man with soft eyes and a gentle voice that didn't rise above a whisper. He didn't ask Ethan why he came. He only said, "Sometimes pain is the teacher that finally humbles the ego." For the first time in decades, Ethan listened. Days passed. Ethan learned to breathe again, not to survive, but to feel. He sat in meditation. At first, he couldn't sit still. The past screamed too loud. But gradually, the silence grew louder than the noise. He swept leaves in the courtyard. He ate in silence. He cried when no one looked. And slowly, the fire inside him began to cool. Then came the day that shattered him all over again, only to rebuild him completely. Brother Ansel approached him and said, "There's someone here you should meet." They walked to a small hut at the edge of the monastery. Inside sat a man with gray hair, one arm missing, and eyes filled with both sorrow and peace. It was Thomas Gray. Ethan stopped. His body stiffened. His breath shortened. His mind screamed, "How dare he be here? How dare he find peace while my daughter is in the ground?" But Thomas didn't flinch. He bowed his head and said softly, "I never got to say I'm sorry, not because it would undo the damage, but because I needed you to hear. I didn't walk away unpunished." I lost my family too. My son never forgave me. I don't deserve it. Ethan wanted to shout, to rage, to accuse. But instead, he saw something else. He saw a man who had paid in ways no prison could measure. Thomas had lost his own son, Michael, who had taken his own life, unable to bear the legacy of shame. Suddenly, Ethan's pain didn't feel like his alone. It felt like a mirror. Two fathers, two graves, two lives broken by one act, and two hearts destroyed by what followed after. They sat in silence for hours, and for the first time, Ethan didn't feel hate. He felt the unbearable weight of shared humanity. He asked Thomas,
"Why do you stay here?" And Thomas replied, "Because if I go back to the world, I'll pretend none of it happened. Here, I remember every day, and I let it change me." That night, Ethan sat in the temple. He lit a candle for Lena, and another for Michael, and then one for Thomas. He whispered, "Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's remembering and choosing to let go." The next morning, Ethan did something he never thought he could. He invited Thomas to walk with him through the garden. They didn't talk much, but when their hands brushed against the same blooming flower, Ethan looked at the sky and thought, This is what my daughter would have wanted." Time passed, but not like it used to. Ethan Rowe no longer counted the days in grief, but in moments of stillness, in breaths that no longer choked him. He remained at the Dharma Refuge Center, not to run from the world, but to learn how to live again, to unlearn what his pain had taught him, and return to the truth that suffering once made him forget. That forgiveness is not about others, it's about freeing yourself. Each morning he lit incense before the altar, not to pray for things to return as they were, but to offer peace to the souls he had once cursed, to his wife, Margaret, to his daughter, Lena, to the boy she loved, Michael, and yes, even to Thomas Gray. One evening, as the golden dusk bathed the temple steps, Brother Ansel sat beside him. "You've changed," he said quietly. Ethan smiled, a real smile. "I haven't changed," he replied. "I've just taken off the armor." There was a long pause. Then Ethan asked, "Do you think she sees me now?" "Lena?" Brother Ansel looked toward the horizon. "When we stop clinging to anger, the soul becomes clear. In that clarity, love always finds its way back." It was then Ethan made a decision, one that would honor Lena in a way pain never could. He reached out to Thomas Gray, and together, they began something new. A scholarship fund, in Lena's name, for children who had lost a parent to reckless driving, for those caught in cycles of grief, too young to understand why love sometimes disappears. The day they launched it, something happened. A boy, no older than 10, stood before Ethan holding a handmade card. It was drawn with shaky lines, colored with too much red and not enough patience, but it said one thing clear as the sky. "Thank you. You helped me feel safe again." Ethan's eyes welled up. That night, under a moon that felt warmer than any in years, Ethan walked alone to the garden, now filled with new flowers. He sat beneath the Bodhi tree and closed his eyes, and he whispered, "Lena, I thought I lost you, but I was just lost inside myself. Now I see you everywhere, in every child we help, in every moment I choose peace, and I hope, wherever you are, you're proud." But not everyone agreed. A local reporter published an article about Ethan and Thomas's project. The headline read, "A father forgives his daughter's killer and honors him with a legacy." The comment section was brutal. Forgiveness? What about justice? If someone killed my daughter, I'd never sit next to them. This is weakness disguised as virtue. But Ethan didn't respond with defense. Instead, he wrote a letter. It was never published, but here's what it said. To those who ask if I've betrayed my daughter by forgiving the man who caused her death, I ask you this. Is a father's love measured in vengeance, or in the peace he creates with what remains of his broken heart? My pain didn't bring her back. My hatred didn't protect her, but my healing, it may protect others. And that is something my daughter would have wanted. I didn't forgive because he deserved it. I forgave because I couldn't carry it anymore. And because my soul was quietly dying. Yours might be too if you listen closely. Ethan Rowe, would you rather live with the pain of injustice or the peace of release? What would you do if forgiveness meant saving your own soul, even if the world called you weak? Drop your thoughts below. Would you forgive?